the dark side of creatine nobody warns you about. When people talk about creatine, they usually focus on the benefits. More strength, better workouts, faster recovery, and bigger muscles. But what about the downsides? What about the things that don't show up in flashy before and after photos or supplement advertisements? Now, to be clear, creatine is one of the most researched supplements in the world, and for most healthy adults, it's generally considered safe when used properly. But that doesn't mean it's perfect, and it definitely doesn't mean everyone understands what they're signing up for. Today, we're uncovering the dark side of creatine that nobody warns you about. Some of these are physical, some are psychological, and some have nothing to do with creatine itself. But they still catch people completely off guard. But before we begin, drop your name and the city you're watching from in the comments below. Alright, let's get started. Number 1. Digestive problems can happen. Have you ever assumed that if a little is good, then a lot must be even better? It's a natural way to think. After all, if creatine can help support strength, performance, and recovery, then taking more should speed things up, right? That's exactly what many beginners believe. So they jump straight into large loading doses, hoping to fast-track their results. Unfortunately, their digestive system often has other plans. A few days later, they may start experiencing bloating, stomach discomfort, cramping, or digestive issues. Naturally, they look at the supplement and think, creatine must be causing this. But here's the interesting part. In many cases, creatine isn't the real problem. The issue is simply that they're taking more than their body comfortably handles. Think of it like trying to fill a glass too quickly. Pouring faster doesn't make the glass hold more water, it just creates a mess. The same principle often applies to creatine. Your body can only use so much at a time, and trying to force the process doesn't necessarily produce better results. In fact, it may make the experience less enjoyable. That's why many experienced users prefer a simpler approach. Instead of chasing rapid results with huge doses, they focus on consistency and patience. A reasonable daily serving is often all that's needed to gradually build creatine stores and experience the benefits over time. The lesson is surprisingly simple. More isn't always better. Sometimes the smartest strategy is the one that feels almost too easy. Take an appropriate amount, stay consistent, and let time do the heavy lifting. Because when it comes to creatine, sometimes less really is more. Number 2. Hydration becomes non-negotiable. What if one of the biggest creatine problems has very little to do with creatine itself? It sounds strange, but it's true. One of the main ways creatine works is by helping your muscles hold more water. That's part of what supports performance, recovery, and that fuller muscle appearance many people notice after starting it. But there's a catch. If your muscles are storing more water, your body may need more fluids than it did before, and that's where things can go wrong. Some people start taking creatine, and a few days later begin experiencing headaches, fatigue, sluggishness, dry mouth, or a general feeling that something just doesn't feel right. Their immediate reaction? Creatine must be causing this. But in many cases, the supplement isn't the real problem. The real issue is that their hydration habits haven't changed even though their body's fluid needs have. Think of it this way. Creatine is asking your body to manage water differently. If you don't give your body enough water to work with, it may start sending signals that something is missing. That's why staying hydrated becomes such an important part of using creatine successfully. This is especially important for older adults. As we age, our natural thirst signals often become less reliable, making it easier to go through the day without drinking enough water. Many people are already mildly dehydrated without realizing it. That's why something as simple as carrying a water bottle and paying closer attention to fluid intake can make a huge difference. For many users, the solution isn't stopping creatine. It's simply drinking more water. And surprisingly often, that small adjustment solves the problem almost immediately. Sometimes the biggest creatine mistake isn't taking the supplement, it's forgetting to support it with proper hydration. Number 3. The scale can mess with your mind. Have you ever spent weeks working hard to lose weight, only to step on the scale one morning and see the number suddenly go up? It's frustrating, and it's one of the most common reasons people panic after starting creatine. A week or two into using the supplement, many people notice that they've gained a few pounds. Naturally, their first thought is often, "Great, now I'm gaining fat." But here's the important thing to understand. In most cases, that's not what's happening at all. One of creatine's most well-known effects is increasing the amount of water stored inside muscle cells. As your muscles become more hydrated, your body weight may rise slightly during the first few weeks. The scale goes up, but body fat doesn't necessarily. The real problem isn't usually the weight gain itself. The real problem is how people interpret it. Many users see the number increase, assume they're moving in the wrong direction, and become discouraged. Some even stop taking creatine before they've had a chance to experience any of its long-term benefits. And honestly, that's where the biggest impact often occurs. Not physically, but mentally. Because once people believe they're failing, motivation starts to disappear. They become frustrated, they second-guess their progress, they lose confidence in the process. The irony is that the scale may be showing a completely normal response, while their body is actually becoming better hydrated and preparing for improved performance. That's why it's important to look beyond a single number. Pay attention to your strength, your workouts, your energy levels, your recovery. Because sometimes the biggest challenge isn't the extra water weight. It's overcoming the fear that comes with seeing it, and once you understand what's really happening, that fear often disappears. Number 4. Bloating can feel worse than it really is. Here's something that supplement advertisements rarely talk about. Not everyone loves the way creatine feels during the first few weeks. One of the most common complaints is a feeling of bloating or puffiness. What's interesting is that the actual physical change is often fairly small, but the sensation can feel much bigger than it really is. You look in the mirror, your clothes fit a little differently, or you simply feel like you're holding extra water. Even if the difference is minor, it's enough to grab your attention. And for people who are highly focused on their appearance, that can be frustrating. The irony is that something positive may actually be happening at the same time. Creatine helps muscles store more water, which can make them look fuller, firmer, and more energized. Many people eventually enjoy this effect because it creates a stronger, more muscular appearance. But in the beginning, all they notice is the feeling of being a little puffy. Instead of seeing fuller muscles, they focus on the temporary discomfort. Instead of appreciating the extra hydration inside the muscles, they worry about how they look. The good news is that this effect is usually not dangerous, and many people find that it becomes less noticeable as their body adjusts. For some, it disappears almost completely. For others, it simply becomes part of the normal experience and stops feeling unusual. Still, that doesn't make it any less annoying while it's happening, and that's why it's important to know about it ahead of time. Because understanding what's happening can make the difference between feeling frustrated and recognizing that your body is simply adapting to a very common effect of creatine use. Number 5. Some people expect miracles. Now let's talk about a dark side of creatine that almost nobody mentions: unrealistic expectations. Believe it or not, this may cause more disappointment than any physical side effect ever could. Thanks to social media, creatine is often portrayed as some kind of miracle powder. You see dramatic before and after photos, transformation videos, and influencers claiming incredible results in what seems like no time at all. After seeing enough of that content, it's easy to start believing that a scoop of creatine is all you need to completely transform your body. So people begin taking it with huge expectations. They expect bigger muscles within days. They expect dramatic strength gains almost immediately. They expect their physique to change so quickly that every glance in the mirror reveals something new. Then reality arrives. A week passes, then another. And while progress may be happening, it usually isn't dramatic enough to match the fantasy they created in their minds. That's when frustration starts creeping in. The truth is much less exciting, but much more realistic. Creatine helps support progress. It doesn't create progress on its own. It supports your workouts. It supports your training. It supports your recovery. But it can't replace consistency, exercise, proper nutrition, sleep, and patience. Those things still matter. In fact, they matter more than the supplement itself. That's why many people become disappointed, not because creatine failed, but because they expected it to do a job it was never designed to do. The people who get the best results understand this. They don't view creatine as magic, they view it as a tool, and when that tool is combined with good habits and realistic expectations, it can be incredibly effective. But when expectations become unrealistic, disappointment is almost inevitable. Number 6. You might ignore the things that matter most. Here's where things start to get really interesting, and honestly, this may be one of the biggest mistakes people make with creatine. Some people become so focused on the supplement that they completely forget about the fundamentals. They spend hours researching the perfect creatine brand. They compare ingredients, watch endless videos, and debate dosing strategies online. But at the same time, they're sleeping 5 hours a night. They're skipping workouts. They're not eating enough protein. They're ignoring recovery. In other words, they become obsessed with the smallest piece of the puzzle while neglecting the pieces that matter most. It's a surprisingly common trap. People start believing that the supplement is the secret. That if they just find the right powder, everything else will take care of itself. But that's not how progress works. Creatine can support strength, it can support performance, it can support recovery, but it can't do your workouts for you. It can't cook healthy meals, it can't make you go to bed earlier, and it definitely can't replace consistency. That's the real dark side. Not that creatine fails, but that people sometimes expect it to replace the habits that actually create results. Then, when progress stalls, they blame the supplement instead of looking at the bigger picture. The truth is much simpler. The most successful creatine users usually aren't successful because of creatine alone. They're successful because they combine creatine with good training, quality nutrition, proper recovery, and consistent effort. The supplement helps, but the habits do the heavy lifting, and unfortunately, no supplement on earth can replace those. That's why the smartest approach isn't to focus only on creatine, it's to make sure the fundamentals are already in place, because that's where real results begin. Number 7. Not everyone gets the same results. Here's something supplement companies rarely emphasize. Creatine doesn't affect everyone in exactly the same way, and honestly, that's one of the biggest reasons people become frustrated. We live in a world where transformation photos are everywhere. You see someone online claiming they gained incredible strength, built noticeable muscle, or completely transformed their physique after starting creatine. Naturally, you start expecting the same thing, but real life isn't that simple. Some people notice significant improvements in strength and workout performance relatively quickly. Others experience more subtle benefits that take longer to recognize. Neither experience is wrong. The reality is that many factors influence how someone responds to creatine. Genetics play a role, diet matters, training style matters, age matters. Even your natural creatine levels before you ever take a supplement can affect the results you experience. That's why comparison can become such a dangerous trap. People see someone else's dramatic transformation and assume their own journey should look exactly the same. When it doesn't, they become discouraged. They start wondering if creatine isn't working. They question whether they're doing something wrong. Some even feel like they've failed, but they haven't. They're simply different, and that's completely normal. The truth is that progress isn't a competition. The only meaningful comparison is between where you are today and where you were yesterday. Maybe your improvements are smaller, maybe they're slower, maybe they're showing up in ways that aren't immediately obvious. That doesn't make them any less real. The people who get the most from creatine usually stop worrying about someone else's results and start paying attention to their own. Because your body has its own timeline, and your journey doesn't need to look like anyone else's to be successful. Number 8. The real dark side is misunderstanding creatine completely. And finally, let's talk about what may be the biggest dark side of all. Misunderstanding what creatine actually is. For some reason, creatine tends to push people toward two extreme opinions. One group treats it like a miracle. They believe a scoop of creatine will dramatically transform their body, build muscle effortlessly, and deliver life-changing results in a matter of weeks. The other group treats it like something dangerous. They hear rumors online, read scary comments, and assume creatine is risky, unnatural, or harmful. The truth? Neither extreme is usually accurate. Creatine isn't magic. It's not going to transform your physique overnight. It's not going to replace exercise, healthy eating, proper sleep, or consistency. But it's also not the scary supplement some people make it out to be. In reality, creatine is much less dramatic than either side suggests. It's simply a tool, a well-researched tool that can help support strength, performance, recovery, and muscle function when used properly. That's all. The real problem begins when people misunderstand its role. Some expect far too much from it and end up disappointed. Others fear it for reasons that aren't supported by evidence and miss out on something that could potentially help them. Both groups are reacting to misconceptions rather than reality. And that's where frustration often begins. The smartest way to think about creatine is to place it in its proper perspective. It's not the entire solution, it's not the enemy, it's one small piece of a much larger health and fitness puzzle. Exercise matters, nutrition matters, hydration matters, recovery matters, consistency matters. Creatine can support those things, but it can't replace them. And once you understand that truth, you free yourself from unrealistic expectations, unnecessary fear, and a lot of disappointment. Because that's when you can finally see creatine for what it really is, a useful tool, not a miracle. So, what's the dark side of creatine nobody warns you about? For most people, it's not a dangerous side effect. It's misunderstanding what creatine can actually do, expecting unrealistic results, ignoring hydration, and overlooking the habits that matter most. The good news is that every one of these mistakes can be avoided with the right expectations and a little patience. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever taken creatine? And what surprised you most about the experience, good or bad? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more honest health and fitness content without the hype. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.